Welcome back to another edition of The Rebel's Edge. Tomorrow coming to you from New York, but today from Puerto Rico, and for Pete, I'm not sure, but we're going to let you guys know what's going on with the stocks and with the president and tariffs. All that and a lot more on today's Rebel's Edge. Bang! Bang. Well, again, another day, another reaction to, even though the president yesterday, Pete, talked about extending the tariffs on China by 90 days. Mm-hmm. Today, it really reacted in terms of the Chinese stock market moving up pretty big. And again, folks, that's Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian. But unusual activity, even in macro, Pete, even in macro, because take a look at this one, the FXI. Yeah, we had it for unusual activity. And yes, it moves to the upside by about 2.5%, 2.7% there. Bang. That's a lot for an index, folks. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind that a 2.75% move out of the S&P, Dow Jones, or NASDAQ, that'd get your attention. This one should get your attention too. What do you got, Pete?
From the macro standpoint, John, I'm just still looking and just marveling at how things are, this market digests and how fast it does. And it looks at the, everything. And it just seems to be moving the right way right now. And I look at, for instance, the CPI number, and tomorrow we're going to get the PPI number. And when we look at that and we look at where rates are and where they might be in the next come September, because it's almost 100% at this point in time, John, as far as a 0.25%. It's starting to creep up as maybe a half cut as well. So we'll see how that all goes. More and more people are talking about that. And I think that's got people pretty excited. And I think that's part of the reason we're seeing this market go up as much as it did yesterday and is up as much as it's doing again today.
Well, speaking of up, Pete, my fantastic future will again be Ether. Yeah. Because Tom Lee must have the edges of his mouth moving up pretty big because, yeah, that since he has come in as the chairman of BMNR, that's Bitminer Immersion Tech, the Ether is just like this, Pete, on a moonshot, or mooning, as they like to say in crypto terms. And boy, if you're not watching that and or participating, folks, you're missing a lot.
Yep, there is a lot going on there. John, the other place where there's a lot going on, this VIX that we talk about all the time, and everybody was in such a panic the other, a couple of Fridays ago now. Just take a look at where we are today. We're not even in the 15s. We haven't even sniffed the 15s today, John. We're sitting down here at 1430 on the lows, call it 1481 on the highs, and around 1450-ish now. So it is really interesting, and that's part of this whole digestion of whether or not it's just data itself, earnings that way, and then all of a sudden going with the tariffs. I mean, it's pretty amazing to see where we are right now. And could we hit basically 52-week lows? We could. I'm not sure we're going to get all the way into the 12s, John. That is what the 52-week low is. I think it's 1270 or something like that. So are we going to get there? I probably don't think so, but who knows at this point in time? It's pretty interesting, though.
Interesting doesn't quite cover it. But as Pete just covered, folks, again, 16, that's the line in the sand. That's a 1% move in the market. The Dow, even though it's moved 350 points, Pete, that's only 0.7%. So what's 0.7 of 16? It's a lot less than 14, I can tell you that. And maybe we're heading towards those numbers too. All right, Pete. Now let's take a look at Instacart, because a number of grocers are not reacting very well to the idea that Amazon is going to make an aggressive push into same-day delivery to more than 3,300 cities, Pete, for groceries. And that should catch your eye. It certainly caught Instacart flat-footed, and the stock dropped double digits. But it isn't the only one, Pete. There's an awful lot of grocers out there that are saying, man, how do we compete with that, including Walmart, even though they're, of course, probably the biggest competitor to what Amazon is doing right now.
Yeah, this whole competition, John, is absolutely unbelievable what we're seeing right now. And the fact that I think there was about 1,000 stores before, and now they've absolutely just corked this number to the upside. It's unbelievable to see what they're actually doing right now and what their expectations are going forward. They are going to be the leader, and the competition is tough. I don't know how some of these groups of stores are going to be able to actually manage through this whole thing. And people are more and more leaning towards that type of delivery and everything else. Really, really impressive what they're talking about doing. And you can see that by the reaction we're seeing in cart. I mean, it's unbelievable. They got really torqued pretty hard, John. They were down about 14, 15%. They've come off of their lows, but I don't know how they're going to get there. I don't know how they're going to be able to be competitive enough to go head to head with Amazon.
It's going to be difficult, and there will be consolidation, folks. So that's the warning I'll throw out to all of you shorts out there, because I know a lot of folks love to short, and God bless you for doing it. It is what keeps the markets fair, Pete, as long as it's a fair way that they get into their short. Whole different conversation. But if you're looking to short some of these grocers, and then you look at the likelihood of consolidation in the space, some of these could pop pretty good, even though it's not justified by the bottom line, Pete. It might be justified by the takeover price.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, folks. All right. Now, Pete, let's take a look at Webtoon. Now, I don't think either Pete or I were really big Webtoon aficionados, but apparently, Pete, this Webtoon takes English language and runs cartoons in a vertical scroll format like this, where they basically just announced a deal with Disney where they're going to get 100 blockbuster comics that Disney has from the likes of course, Marvel. But they're going to run those, Pete, and it was initially up 30%, then 60%. Now it's almost up 100% on the day. It's pushed through 18 already, Pete. And this is a huge deal because we're talking Star Wars, Avengers, Spider-Man, all of that stuff. Right, Pete?
Yeah, it's amazing. And the fact that they hit 17, then they pulled back. But all of a sudden, as you're pointing out, that's been just what they've been doing today. This stock has gone crazy. It's moving to the upside. Last I looked, it was up 80%. Now you're telling me it's up 100%. I mean, absolutely an incredible run here, John. The excitement behind it is not, I don't know, I shouldn't say surprising, but it did catch me off a little bit. And I continue to look at this one. They also delivered some earnings. You know, their earnings were very strong. Their revenue was also a big, strong beat. Matter of fact, 348 million was that number, and a year ago was sitting down at 321 million. So things are really moving in the right direction. I think this Webtoons thing, it's not something that I would have enough interest in personally, John, but I can understand why people would maybe be interested in this. It's kind of going back to the old days in a way, right? And the scrolling and all the rest of it. And Disney being a part of this with all of those various things from Spider-Man to the Avengers and Star Wars, all those kinds of things. This is pretty amazing. I wouldn't want to short this thing, but I tell you, it's gone up pretty fast. It's gone up in an unbelievable speed that makes me think there's got to be some sort of a pullback at some point, but maybe not. But I'm not gonna fool around with this one. I don't want to fight this one. I'll let this thing tell me when it's time to maybe be on the short side of it.
Yeah, that's smart. I think a lot of people got in on the short, Pete, up 30% today.
Oh.
And right now they're probably scrambling pretty hard. That's probably the buying that's going on right here, the short squeeze, as Jeff Garbatz, one of our great editors over at Market Rebellion, would say. The short squeeze, it's real. All right, now let's take a look, Pete, at Bitminer Immersion Technologies and one of the stocks that you've not heard about as much, 180 Life Sciences, which is symbol ATNF. Now, this one, Pete, making a big move today. Why? record inflows into ETF, or rather Ethereum ETH-backed exchange-traded funds. And BitMine, of course, has a treasury of almost $5 billion already, and they're going to 5% of Ethereum, according to Mr. Tom Lee. I wouldn't fade Tom, Pete. And man, he's already saying, various like Standard Chartered, Pete, they say they see 7,500 for ETH by the end of the year. For those of you who don't follow it, it's at 4,600 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, expecting this thing to continue. And John, it used to be a storyline about buying Bitcoin, right? And that's something we got used to. And Saylor was one of the big guys doing that. And then others started to jump into that as well and trying to leverage it that way. Well, I'll tell you what, with Ethereum and the price tag of where that is and the possibility of accumulation, well, that's why I think you're seeing this go at the sort of speed that it's going right now, John. They said it's about 2x faster than when this was going on with Bitcoin. So Ether is suddenly kind of came out of the shadow of Bitcoin, and it's come out in a big way because we're hearing about it, it seems like day after day after day, and a lot more interest in this one than we ever had seen in the past. So because of that, yeah, this thing has probably plenty of room still to the upside. And like you said, right now people are calling for 7,500. I think that's about the level they're looking at. I'll say this, why not 10,000? I mean, it sounds crazy, but there's people out there, John, still talking about Bitcoin going to 1 million or 2 million or, numbers like that. So if that's the case, I think Ethereum certainly could get towards 10,000 a lot faster than people might expect, at least right now.
Pete, so true, so very true. And I watch what's going on in BMNR because, again, that's Tom Lee's company. He's the chairman over there now, in addition to Fundstrat, his day job. Pete, that stock hit 72 today in the pre. Now, in the regular session, I think it's 71, 74 was the high. But, I mean, oh, my gosh. Take a look at all those unusual activities we've had every single week, Pete. And this one, just from 2 days ago, they came in with the stock at 65. And here it is, like I say earlier today, almost 72 during the regular session. It's just every single day people are buying. And hey, man, if you want to get some trades like that, you got to subscribe. You got to go over to marketrebellion.com/get started. You guys should be in there with us. And this is probably your best way of doing it. All right, Pete, one more. Let's hit Cava. And again, I'm not casting shade at Jim Cramer. I'll let the haters do that. I'm a lover. And Jim, for whatever reason, Pete, just loved this stock, however. And today it's down double digits. Why is it down double digits? Well, they're opening a lot of new restaurants. They've already got to 398 locations. And they've reaffirmed profitability targets. But people are kind of frustrated with the targets, I think, Pete. And they want to see some real bottom line numbers. And they didn't see what they wanted to see. And even though some of the analysts have kept their buy ratings on it, a lot of them are like, I think like this, hands out towards you. That means sell.
Yeah, and there's plenty of them have been caught, flat-footed here too, John. I think it's part of the problem. And they, at this point, they don't want to admit it as the stock hits 52-week lows. I mean, down there towards $65, 172 was the 52-week high. This is a stock that's gotten slammed pretty hard, John. When you look at what their guidance was, that's where people weren't very happy. Matter of fact, the slowing sales numbers was another issue that they were having to deal with as well. So, the pace at what's going on, obviously they continue to expand, but the problem is people are starting to put their hands a little bit into their pockets, I think. And that's why when you see something like a Chipotle or you see something like this, which is basically a Mediterranean version of Chipotle, you can understand why there's a little bit of pressure on. By the way, the shorts are putting a pretty big smile on their face because it's about 11% short interest on this one, John. But when I look at it and I look where the PE is, call it triple digits, I would say that they're still a little bit overpriced even though they're down at this low level, they're still overpriced based upon what they've been able to actually put up for their earnings and so forth. So for that reason, I would have to wait to see this thing make some sort of a turn, because I haven't seen it make a turn. It just keeps going down, 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 down. And that's going to be a problem, I think, going forward as well.
Well, this one, Pete, it hit a 65 handle this morning.
Yep.
Now it's back up to 71 as we're doing the show here, but this is not good. And people are frustrated, and some of those analysts are going to be having a knock on the door and saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure about that?" That's what happens. And I guarantee, by the way, Pete, I'll bring it back to President Trump. When President Trump said to Goldman Sachs, David Solomon, "Hey, how about your guy that said tariffs were going to cost us all so much money? You think that guy should still be in that job? You think so? You really think so?" It's just like Danny DeVito, Pete, or any of these other, comics, when all of a sudden they give you that look. And I think a lot of people are probably wondering right now, "You're sure you're still a buy on this one?"
All true.
Right. Let's dive into sports, Pete. You get to take over. You're driving right now.
All right, from the driver's seat, I can tell you this. I think it's kind of fun, John, this time of year to make it fun. And I thought, hey, let's take a look and say we've got some preseason in front of that we've already seen. We know how well people are excited about what happened with Shedeur, the people who like him at least, and the people who dislike him are probably disappointed that he did as well as he did in his opener. But let's all remember that's all just preseason. So here's what I wanted to throw out to you today, John. And I'll be over there with the Vikings later on today, because they've got a joint practice with New England Patriots. So that should be pretty fun. So see what they look like, see what New England looks like. Everybody wants to see what Drake May looks like as far as throwing the football around out there. So that should be pretty cool between he and JJ, that competition. But here's what I wanted to throw out to you. Now there's a lot of obvious names that we could go with, but who's somebody who's not necessarily an obvious name out there? Like, for instance, if I said, who's going to win the NFC and be the NFC team in the Super Bowl? I'd say 90% of people are going to say, well, it's probably the Philadelphia Eagles. And if it's not the Eagles, it's this team, or, that type of thing. But somebody other than the obvious. So here's what I'll throw out to you. My NFC team, and I'm throwing this out because of what I've seen them do in the offseason, how they changed things, what their quarterback looks like, because you have to always start with the quarterback. I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be my NFC team. Now, that's a long shot, and we're having to get rid of the Eagles and Washington and some of the other favorites in San Francisco. But for me, I'm going to say it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On the AFC side, everybody loves, Baltimore, of course, is great, and they are. I mean, all these teams are great for all the right reasons, but I wanted to go a little bit of a different way. So I decided to say, you know what? I think it's the Chargers. I think the coach there with Jim Harbaugh is absolutely incredible. They've got probably one of the biggest offensive lines in football, and they don't look like they came from a pie-eating contest, John. These guys are big. They're tough. Their running backs are great. They did a great job in free agency going out and getting the right kind of guys for the offense so they can run a little bit more, because that is what Jim likes to do. He also has a pretty damn good quarterback back there in Herbert too. So I look at that and I say, you know what? I'm going to say the Chargers and I'm going to say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. These are the longer shots, but I think that they are legitimately, potentially Super Bowl teams. How about you?
I'm going to say, Pete, Washington Redskins. And yes, I said Redskins.
I was going to say, wait a minute.
Maybe they will be again.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there, Pete. A lot of moving parts, and I know probably during the season they don't do it. So for now, the Commanders.
Yeah.
Such a great name.
Yeah.
But I'll say Washington Commanders, and I'll say Buffalo. So the Commanders and Buffalo, Pete. How about that?
I like it. Cincinnati's a lot of people talk about Buffalo. They talk about Cincinnati. I mean, there are some great teams in the AFC this year. There's no doubt about it. And it's, I think you could throw a bunch of different names out there and you could see a reason why maybe they could be the team. But I think it's kind of fun because otherwise it's pretty obvious what teams so far, and all you got to do is look on these betting lines to say, all right, they're going, probably pretty likely that that's going to be the case. All right, how about this? NCAA college football. Bill Belichick, first year ever coaching at the college level. Should be pretty interesting, John. What do you think? If you're a player, he went out and recruited the living tar out of everybody, right? But he did a lot of it in the portal. He got the high school kids too, but he went out in the portal and picked up a hell of a lot of different folks that came over to North Carolina. And they got a great stadium. They've got great fans. Now they just need to have a great football team. And I don't know if it all happens in 1 year, but I wouldn't be totally shocked. And I think he's done a really good job. And as we've talked about before, when we talk about Bill Belichick, what was his first hire? He went out and got his general manager. And his general manager is the guy who's out there not only helping the recruiting, but he's the guy who's trying to figure out how much do we pay this guy? How much do we pay that guy? How are we going to do this? You know, those are sort of the way the job looks like when you're the GM in college football these days. You're out there getting players, great players, and you're trying to figure out how do I get them and how do I get them with the cheapest amount of money because we got to spread this around. I think that it's going to be a really interesting year. Are they going to go 10-2? No. But could they be somebody who is pretty damn competitive and maybe wins 8 or 9 games? Maybe, that's not that far from 10, but it all depends on how the ball bounces. But I'm excited to see Belichick in college going out there and going up against all the competition they've got at the college level.
Let me ask you this, Pete. One question. Who had a better team coming in, Colorado or North Carolina?
Coming in this year?
With the new coach coming in. I mean, when Dion came into Colorado, they were what, 1-10, Pete?
Yeah. Terrible.
So how about North Carolina, and what kind of team did they have versus what kind of team Dion had? Which one had the better?
The better team North Carolina did.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say here is he doesn't have as heavy a lift as Dion had. And Dion recruited the heck out of kids, just like Coach Belichick's doing, as he should, because he's got the rings to prove it, Pete. But I would say that it's not as heavy a lift. Now, granted, Dion came out 4-0 and then zip, basically, it was just, I think the only other one he won was Colorado State or something like that. Mm-hmm. No offense to Colorado State, but they don't play in Belichick's league out there, Pete. So I'll say that right now they're ranked about 50th, maybe 55th best team. If he can bring them into the top 25, it's a huge year for him.
Yep.
Huge. And it'll be huge for recruiting. And I'm sure that North Carolina is going to get a lot of kids signing up for school there, just like Dion was able to do at Colorado. I'm sure he'll get a lot of great recruits. And if he keeps his focus, as he usually has when he's been a coach, I will say that this could be just a great turnaround for that program.
Yeah.
Question is, of course, does he keep his health? And does the press just talk about his girlfriend nonstop instead of talking about how the Tar Heels are doing? So hopefully they talk more about Tar Heels football and recruiting and the play on the field than his girlfriend. But that remains to be seen, Pete.
Yeah, although I will say this, I haven't seen as much on her now that they've all digested that whole thing. We haven't seen as much about that. Now they are talking about football and how good they potentially could be. I think he got himself a pretty good quarterback this year. I think they've done a lot of things positionally that could be pretty beneficial, and they've got a little bit more depth because of the portal. So, people expect things to happen. It used to be, give him 3 or 4 years because he's got to go out and recruit the players. That ain't true anymore. Now you go out immediately and get veteran players because of the portal. So, like it or not, that's the way it is. And it is a quicker turnaround if you do the right thing. And I think that Belichick, if anybody's going to do it the right way and get it done and get the right players, I think he's definitely pretty high on my list.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say, again, not putting shade on Dion for this either, but Dion had, some coaching experience, but it's not the depth that Belichick had
Right.
and has. So look for a bigger turnaround with NC than you saw with Colorado. Just my final take. All right. Thank you for joining us, folks. It's always fun to have you here at the Rebel's Edge. Make sure you check out marketrebellion.com/get started. And Pete and I will be back tomorrow, but I forget what time, Pete. What time are we going to be back tomorrow?
I believe it's 1 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Giddy up.
See you tomorrow.